What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for Sports. All right, so I was looking at fadeawayworld.net earlier this week, and they had an article where they listed, in their opinion, the greatest point guards in the history of each franchise. And I think that's a series that they've been having recently. Best center, power forward, small forward, shooting guard, and now point guard. Now, in my opinion, I didn't have a problem with any of the people that they listed except for one. Okay? There's two other I thought that were a little bit debatable. I can understand why they chose Kyle Lowry for the Raptors. He won a championship. But I thought that as a basketball player, I thought Damon Stoudemire was a better point guard. Okay. The other franchise where I thought they could have picked someone else is the Bullets/Wizards, where they have chosen Gilbert Arenas. And I thought that if you consider Earl the Pearl Monroe a point guard because he could play either position, I thought you could pick Earl the Pearl Monroe. The one that I totally disagree with, and this might come as a surprise to anyone who listens to my videos because I seem like I'm the biggest Russell Westbrook fan of all time, but Russell Westbrook is not the greatest player in Thunder history. Now look, if you're going to say since they became the Thunder, if you're going to make it that specific, then I can't argue with that. Yeah, he's the greatest point guard in Thunder history. But most people don't do that. Until the Seattle Supersonics reemerge as a completely different franchise, until that happens, the Sonics' history is retconned with the Thunder. They're one and the same, which means that the Sonics' history is affiliated with the Thunder. They're the same team. And by that, I have to give the honor to Gary Payton, the glove. I think he's a better player than Russell Westbrook. Yeah, Russell Westbrook is more athletic. One of the greatest athletes at the point guard position we've ever seen. Mr. Triple-Double. Four different seasons, averaging a triple-double. I think it's 4, 2016, 17, 2018, 2017, 18, 2018, 19, and 2020, 21. Yes, 4 different individual seasons averaging a triple-double. Remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. Went to an NBA Finals, an MVP, a top 75 all-time player. Despite what Shannon Sharpe will tell you. However, Gary Payton, to me, and this isn't saying much for Gary Payton because Payton was never noted for being a great shooter, but by the numbers, Payton was a better three-point shooter, marginally at least. He was a better jump shooter. Payton could post you up. Hey, there's only been 2 players that have ever really outplayed John Stockton in his prime in the playoffs. One of them was Magic Johnson. The other one was Gary Payton. They're the only 2. Gary Payton may not have won an MVP award, but then again, it was extraordinarily difficult for a point guard to win that award back in the 90s when you had players in the league like David Robinson and Charles Barkley and Karl Malone and Michael Jordan and Hakeem Olajuwon and Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal and Tim Duncan and Kevin Garnett, Allen Iverson. It was very difficult for a point guard to win that award. Okay? And also the way that point guards were playing, even though it was evolving in the 90s, it still was not what it is today, where you have guys who are basically hybrids who are scoring and dishing and grabbing 8, 9 defensive boards a night to try to give them the triple doubles. The game wasn't played like that back then. You had trees down low, point guards hovered around the perimeter for the most part, and they ran the offense. So look, Russell Westbrook's numbers, per game numbers, look better. Part of that's because of the era that he played in and the way that he and the game that he's played and the way that the game is played today. Hell, when Russ was playing with the Thunder, he was the offense after Kevin Durant was traded. When he went to the Wizards, even though Bradley Beal was leading the league, well, at times leading the league in scoring, finished second to Steph Curry. Russ was the one running the offense. Payton didn't have quite that much freedom as far as shooting the basketball. I will say this, though. On the defensive side of the ball, is no comparison whatsoever. Payton is considered by many the greatest defensive point guard ever. Russ had the physical tools to be great at that side of the ball, on that side of the ball, but he never implemented them and never really worked on his defense like that. Payton had the superior basketball IQ. Like I said before, Payton had a post game, he'd post your ass up. I could easily see Gary Payton playing with Kevin Durant and not blowing that 3-1 lead. Payton was a better clutch performer. Payton was more tenacious. Payton was one of the great trash talkers the game has ever seen. And won't nothing feminine about him. He was a real alpha dog. I mean, a real alpha dog. Okay? Real. He wasn't just born in Oakland. He was Oakland. He was of that nature. And he would have been the alpha dog of that team. And he would have had Kevin Durant bend toward his will. Because he was part of it. Look, anybody that don't let Michael Jordan punk him down, or Charles Barkley, any of those motherfuckers will get in the face of a big man, he's not going to feel any type of way as far as letting Kevin Durant try to punk him. So yeah, I have to go with Gary Payton, man. His numbers may not look as great offensively across the board, but that's because of the way the game was played. The pace was different. Efficiency was lower. And Payton still was more efficient than Russell Westbrook. But yeah, I just don't see any comparison, man. Russ has played with a lot more great players than Gary Payton in his prime, all right? In Gary Payton's prime, he's played with Sean Kemp. And then later on, a would-be Hall of Famer in Vin Baker, had he, took better care of himself. Then, of course, in Milwaukee, I think he played with Glenn Big Dog Robinson, and he played with some good players who you can make an argument, since the bar has been lowered, should be in the Hall of Fame, but not in his prime. Now, of course, yeah, they only played with Shaq and Karl Malone, but they were falling off. And Karl Malone was in his last year. So you look at that and you look at who Russ has played with just in the last few years alone. Excuse me. So in my opinion, I got to go with Gary Payton. I have to go with Gary Payton, the glove, as the best point guard in the history of that franchise. But who would you pick? Would you pick Russell Westbrook or would you pick Gary Payton?